try better.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting of August 26, 2014. We opened our meeting a little after 6 o'clock and went into executive session. So we're now continuing on a regular session.
Okay, we'll do the
Mr.
roll.
Titlebaum will be acting as clerk today.
Okay, we'll do the roll call again. Present are Chairman Slavin, Selectman Holmes, Selectman Whiteside, Selectman Titlebaum, Town Administrator Sullivan, and Town Council Bowen. Next item on the agenda, announcements.
Mr. Titlebaum.
I don't believe I have any other than what I will find in the folder here, should I find any. Why don't you go to the other members first?
Mrs. Whiteside.
Yes, I would like to remind people that summer people are going to be going home and they're going to be disposing of their pets that they thought were cute during the summertime. So the dog officer, the animal control officer is going to be really busy. If you know that somebody has abandoned an animal in your neighborhood, please just call. Let's avoid a whole bunch of feral cats and dogs.
Mr. Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anytime. It's good to see you back.
Yes, thank you. I want to say that I thoroughly enjoyed, I told Mrs. Whiteside that, I thoroughly enjoyed my first vacation in 15 years. And especially having my son with me for 3 weeks. It was quite a father and son trip. My last round, which was on Friday, it was the best round of my life. David, you listening? I was 6 over. Pretty impressive. I haven't played since I got home. Can you believe it? It's been 4 days. Sean and I are going to get out there Thursday and see if we can maintain that level. Of course, we're playing in the south, so it's that Bermuda grass, so it's a lot different. But I would like to say that, in my brief couple days back, I've spoken to a couple of business people, and they've asked that I relay the message, as we do every end of August. Labor Day is coming, and then a lot of the summer people go, except for weekends until Columbus Day. So please, 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 if you have purchases to make or you need to buy stuff, please use our local businesses. This is the time of the year when they really have a tough time struggling to get through the winter. So please keep them in mind. Also, I used somebody that I never used before. It was a nice young man. He's from Bourne, limo service from the airport home. I think it was called Bourne Limo. I tried to find one in Onset, but there was one that I called, but they never returned my call. So if anybody knows of it, we used to use one and they went out of business. So if anybody knows of a limo service in Onset, please let me know. I'd like to try them out, and then we can advertise them here on Tuesday night. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's it.
Mr. Titlebaum, back to you.
Nothing in the folder. Your turn.
Thank you. Last week we announced that there was going to be work on Route 28 up to Route 6, and that they would be starting probably next spring. Well, looks like the state's on a rush. They've actually gone ahead and authorized PA Landers to start work on September 3rd. So basically from Maple to Plymouth roads and adjacent parks and rides in the town of Wareham and Rochester, they will be repaving those roads, including the curb cuts and the curbing. And again, that will start September 3rd. So expect, as you're driving through those areas, you're going to have some delays.
Can you do the areas again?
Area is basically Route 28 from Maple to Plymouth Road. So what it is from the Rochester line down to where Route 6 out of Sandwich Road runs into Route 28.
Yep.
Boys and Girls Club of Wareham is having their golf tournament. It's going to be Monday, October 13th, Columbus Day at Little Harbor Country Club. And the event begins at 11:30, shotgun style at 12:30. And you can contact the Boys and Girls Club in order to sign up and join. I believe it's individual player is $100, team entry is $400. Get a hold of Kenny Fonts. We have a ribbon cutting ceremony for Best Friends Learning Center. I'm sure everybody has seen their signs. They were all over Wareham announcing they'll be opening up in September. I think they're opening up either the 2nd or 3rd. The grand open house itself is August 30th on Saturday at 9 o'clock if you want to stop by and take a look at what they're going to have. I attended a meeting of the Cape Cod Centennial Celebration Committee this morning, and at that particular meeting, they were basically wrapping up the committee, but they had some excess funds, about $16,000 total. They decided to take half of those funds, $8,000, and split them up into a scholarship fund for the 4 regional schools, which is Upper Cape, Bourne, Wareham, and Sandwich. So Wareham will be getting a $2,000 scholarship fund from the Cape Cod Centennial Committee. I thought that was quite nice of them to do that. Those of you who don't get the Cape newspapers, we had an article that we were talking about here back about a month ago about residential tax exemption plan. Mashpee, which is the one on the Cape that was looking at it, basically people came out in strong opposition, so just as a heads up, if you want to look at that, it's available through capenews.net. And last meeting of the planning board, it's really an announcement. The Bay Point Club mixed-use development project has changed a little bit. There are now 95 units instead of 115 because of some issues on the land itself in the actual district. So I'll leave the copy here with the board so they can look at it. That all goes to Peter. And that's it for me. Thank you. Peter, next.
Okay, next item, citizens' participation. Is there anybody here tonight to speak to or at the board? Mrs. Slavin? She's got a clipboard too, huh? Yep. Don't forget to leave notes. Good evening.
Good evening, Sandy Slavin. A couple months ago, I don't know the difference between private or public, but a couple months ago, I offered to go around and take pictures of the signs that prohibit public access to the beaches and waterways and something like that. It's part of my job of the Conservation Commission to look at the sites coming before us. So I'm always all over town. I'm willing to take pictures, but I need someone to tell me what is the language that would prevent public access to these roads, because it's my understanding if no public access, then no town plowing. So I'm willing to take pictures when I'm out and about, but I just need to know what words would tell me to take the picture. I got no answer last time, Mr. Holmes.
Mr. Sullivan, we can get back to Mrs. Slavin and let her know whether or not she can actually do that for you.
Mr. Chairman, we would need the Board of Selectmen to create the policy on that, and that has been held back. As well, I would say no, as her capacity through conservation, I would not recommend that.
All right, I'm out and about, but okay.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else for citizens' participation? Okay, next up, appointments, reappointments. We have none on the agenda for tonight. Licenses and permits, none. Moving on to town business, discussion re-policy 08-01. Is this the one where you would prefer to have all 5 of us present?
I believe we have to wait because Mr. Tropiano was going to be handling that one.
Right.
That was on his, so I'll reschedule that again.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, insurance rules for liquor licenses.
Okay. This is an issue which came up originally when our insurance coverage, the company itself, gave us some information about dollar numbers that we had to have. We had some problems with some of our people with one-day licenses with the dollar amounts. So unfortunately, I started to look into it, which is never a good thing, and had a hard time finding where we actually had set policy or really actually voted on a lot of these numbers that we had sitting. The only thing I could find, which Mr. Bowen also, I asked him to look at, was Mass General Laws, Chapter 38, Section 12, which actually has for what they call pouring licenses, a $250,000 single event, and I believe a $500,000 what they call general event. And we've had 1,000,002, we've had 1,000,003, and the question is, what do we do with just plain liquor, places, package stores, one-day license, etc.? So getting into it, I found that we didn't really have anything, and some of the numbers were just, they weren't there by any, rules or whatever. The board, I believe, has a right to set some of these requirements as protection to the residents of the town. But as far as anything except for on-town property, it becomes more a question of what we can and can't do. So I'm going to switch over to Mr. Bowen for a minute, and he can explain what he came up with. This is, right now, really for discussion. We'll bring this back to the board and come up with some final numbers. But I wanted to bring this out because, unfortunately, what I thought would be simple is never simple.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. What I did was I put together a very basic insurance policy for your consideration. And I understand that it will evolve. It's broken down into 3 different sections. Section 1 is called All License Indemnity. And in that, I propose that any party that applies for any liquor license, be it package store, pouring license, seasonal license, one-day license, provide an executed notarized statement holding the town of Wareham and the Board of Selectmen and our officers and employees harmless, and to indemnify us, and to make that as part of the annual application process. So that would be very standard, and an application would not be considered complete until a signed copy of that was handed in with the papers. On Section 2, it's called Insurance Required of Pouring Licenses, and a number of years ago, not too many years ago, Chapter 138, Section 12 was amended to actually require that places that serve alcohol to be consumed on premises have a minimum level of insurance, and the legislature has determined that that amount be as I've set forth in the proposed policy. After I looked at that, naturally I went straight to the other sections of the liquor licensing laws that we deal with, those being package store licenses under Section 15, so-called one-day licenses under Section 14, and the legislature did not include that type of mandatory insurance language in those statutes. So what that told me was that the package store lobby was a lot more effective than the restaurant lobby. Well, I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but not only are you within your right to require liability insurance for so-called pouring licenses, it's required by law. And what I'd suggest is that, should you adopt this policy, that as part of Shirley's checklist when she receives the materials at annual renewal or when somebody applies, that she just make sure to ask people when they come in, please provide the certificate of insurance that reflects these minimum amounts. Obviously, if they want to provide higher levels, that's great. The third section, or I call it temporary licenses, that's the technical phrase of art for what we usually call one-day licenses. They're really known as temporary licenses. And I've broken that up into 2 sections. One, with respect to all one-day licenses, I've said that applicants shall carry such insurance coverage as the Board of Selectmen shall deem appropriate. I haven't set a minimum. You could decide that the question of what insurance they carry is up to them. It's between them and their assets. Or you could decide that they ought to have some, but that's within your discretion. The second part of this relates to temporary licenses that would be actually exercised on our property, and that's a very different matter. And in that, I've suggested that applicants shall require liquor liability insurance, naming the town as an additional co-insured, and I've suggested that the amount be in a minimum that you might require, but in no event less than $3 million on account of injury or death per person. The reason for that is that, unlike other license decisions that you make, Number one, as a practical matter, it's highly unlikely that you or the town would be held liable for issuing a license to someone. The circumstances are so unlikely as to be almost impossible. But should someone actually manage to prevail in such an action, there's a $100,000 cap on tort liability. If it's happening on our property, that tort cap might not apply, because the tort cap liability applies to situations where we're acting as government. If we're renting out property or allowing our property to be used for the service of alcohol, it becomes a question of fact as to whether we're operating as a government or whether we're operating as a purveyor of alcohol. And that's the type of thing that would go to a jury. In that case, we might not get the $100,000, and my recommendation is that we get plenty of insurance if, in fact, you want to let somebody use our property. And by our property, I mean, not just, town buildings or town parking lots. I'd say streets, too. So that's what I've drafted up for your consideration. Obviously, you'll have to reflect on it for a while, but that's why some parts are a little bit different from others. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Holmes, any questions? It's just a start. Mr. Titlebaum?
No, I think we'll have to come back to this and set the limits.
Mrs. Whiteside?
No, I think that it's very clear what he set out. Thank
If
you.
it's okay with the board, then I will work with Mr. Bowen on this and try and get something put together. Because we've had...
And bring it back in a couple of weeks.
Because we've had misinformation because
Yep.
of communication errors
Right.
from Meyer originally telling us we needed 1 million, 3 million. Yeah. Yeah, before that, maybe by the 9th. No, 9th might be. I'll try for the 9th at the latest, if not that next meeting we have.
Second Tuesday in September is the 9th.
We're not meeting the day after the holiday.
It's okay. Yeah, I'll try for that.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next item, vote to approve submitted articles town meeting warrant. We've got a few sets of people here. Batting leadoff, the members of the Community Events Committee who have
Did you get
provided,
this?
well, I'm not going by that,
Okay.
I'm going by what Shirley's done, actually. So, Mr. Chairman, do you want the members to come on up?
Not unless we have any questions. What I'd like to do before we start, this is just part of the selectmen's policy. It's been a little convoluted and a little confusing over the years. The board normally, really only what it does is it votes favorable action, which everybody remembers, which is kind of a misnomer because favorable action kind of gives you a misleading answer. The board is actually supposed to be the gatekeeper and look at the articles before they go on the warrant. The warrant closes to make sure they're correct, they're doable, etc., any issues with them. So we don't come to town meeting and sit there and say, oh, we're going to pull this article, we're going to pull that article. So we're trying to streamline the process and get it corrected. So what we're doing here is we're not voting whether we like the article or dislike the article personally. We're talking strictly about is the article sufficient to go onto the town meeting warrant. So I want to make that clear. That's all we're doing tonight. We'll talk about...
Talking about Article 21 right
we'll have
now.
community events, and then we'll have CPC, and then we'll go from there. Mr. Sullivan.
I thought for this to bring it was just whether the board would approve to let it go on the
Yeah, that's
the
what I
That's what you
warrant.
said.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but we still have placeholder articles and such, so, yeah.
We're going to have, obviously, we're going to have these issues of placeholder articles, which we're going to have to let slide through because they are placeholders. We can't have numbers, but we're trying to avoid some of the ones we have, which basically just don't work out at all.
I think the purpose of attacking this early was to get some done tonight, come back and get some more done on
That's
the
what
9th.
That's what I'm thinking. The ones that are ready today, next
Yeah.
week there'll be another one.
Exactly. Even on the 9th, there may be some where there isn't sufficient
This is a
information.
progressive process.
Yes. We're proactive.
I like that
It's
one.
progressive but not liberal.
Right. It's a process we're
I know
talking
how
about,
Republican system.
not a thought. So it's not a thought process, it's a process. Because then I'd have to,
Do you want to read through the article, Mr.
I just
Titlebaum?
read-
Yeah, I'll read this into the record. This is submitted by the Community Events Committee, and the article reads as follows: to see if the town will vote to petition the legislature for a special legislation amending Section 2 of Chapter 82 of the Acts of 2008 to allow for the annual deposit of blank percent of the proceeds of the Wareham Parking Meter Fund into the Community Events Fund to take effect beginning July 1st of the fiscal year following the effective date of this act, and for subsequent fiscal years, or take any other action relative thereto. The language, basically what they're looking to do here, just so people understand, is to modify what was passed, which, under the language at the time, in retrospect, appeared only to authorize that distribution from the parking meter fund into community events for the first year. This apparently was not what was intended at the time, but unfortunately that's what was written and passed at the time. So this is to cure that, and that is what community events is seeking here, is to essentially legitimize their funding source, if you will.
I just want to make a statement before we start. I'm actually a full voting member of this particular committee. That was the way it was set up originally by the special act. I've already done a disclosure at the clerk's office on different things I do might have a conflict, and I have no financial remuneration from this particular committee or have any financial interest at all, but I just want to put that out forward so I comply with all the rules. Mrs. Whiteside, any questions on this article?
Yes, I do. The annual deposit of some percentage of the proceeds, is this an unlimited amount of money? That's the way I read that.
I think that it should have come through from Shirley. The actual article, I believe, had for the first section would be 25%. What we have here is not the actual article itself on the sheet here that I have.
All right, let's compare it to what we see, I guess perhaps in the latest handout from Mr. Sullivan. Is that correct as well? Or perhaps it's time to ask the community events folks to come up here?
It's exactly the same way. Article 21.
Tell us what it is exactly that they're looking for, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, what are they looking for? An unlimited cap?
No, what they're looking for is 25% of the parking fees and 20% of the hotel meals tax.
25% of the parking fees?
Yes, they originally had 70 and 40 from before.
May I ask Mr. Sullivan what the current parking fees are to date?
That would be approximately $25,000.
So we're at $100,000.
Yes.
May I ask, what does this money go for? What is this money used for?
Would you like the committee to come up and explain that or not?
I'd like an answer, sir.
I thought we changed this to a finite number.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not that,
No way.
because then they save the money and
Yeah.
then we're buying kiosk and we change that. Oh,
That's
it's
on
not been
purpose.
changed? I thought he changed it.
No.
Not official, well, we need, is that what we're trying to fix here?
Is that the correct one? One second. Mr. Attorney Bowen has come up with the correct one. If you want, I can read that one into the record.
That would be nice,
Yeah.
since I know we filed it.
Pass it on over. Okay, before we start, let's try to get this straightened out.
I'm going to leave one for Patrick.
And this was actually a week old, so shame on us for not having the right one here. The article would read as follows: to see if the town will vote to petition the legislature for special legislation amending Section 2 of Chapter 82 of the Acts of 2008 to allow for the deposit of 25% of the proceeds of the Wareham Parking Meter Fund into the Community Events Fund and 20% of the excise collected under Section 3A of General Laws, Chapter 64G, also known as the Hotel and Motel Tax, as of the, quote, and this is the new language, effective date of this act and for the subsequent fiscal years, but in no event earlier than July 1st, 2015, or take any other action relative thereto. So that is what we are looking at tonight.
Mrs. Whiteside.
In this time of fiscal austerity, I have a problem with an unlimited amount recognized by a percentage. I would be more in favor of having a cap of $10,000 or something like that. One of the things that I think that Wareham does a lot is give stuff away. This is money that perhaps could be used for other benefits for the residents of the town of Wareham. I understand that we are a seasonal community and that we rely very heavily on events and festivals and all sorts of good stuff, but the cheap person in me has a real problem in giving you an unlimited amount of money.
Mr. Holmes?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no issues with the Community Events Fund. I think that over the years, Mr. Potter had some really good vision with this. But what I've witnessed myself is just like it is the town of Wareham this happens, and you're absolutely right, that we create all these silos, and we have all these buckets of money, and nobody can touch any of this money. And this is a community events fund, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And we use this money to support events that are held in our communities for a calendar year. So we know how much we've spent, or let's say even if we took an average over the last 6 years. I forget when Jimmy left us. Was it 2007?
Yeah.
So we now have 7 years of history. So we know basically what we spend on an annual basis over the last 7 years. So I think it's more than 10,000, but whatever that number is, it's 25, it's 30, it's 40, it's 50, whatever that number it is, I'd rather see that number in this document. And at the end of the calendar year, really the fund should be pretty close to zero. And then at the start of the next year, you get, we look at it, and if there's any massive changes, if it's 100 grand, it's 100 grand. Put the 100 grand in the account. They give to all the different various community events. At the end of the year, the fund is close to zero. What we saw, I think, it was last year, I don't want to get my year screwed up, but I really took offense when the chief, the former chief, had money in this account. Remember, Susan? Well, the kiosk money.
Mm-hmm.
And they had all this money sitting in this community events fund. Is that correct, Al?
They had
It was like 2 years ago?
3.
Yeah, 2 or 3 years ago, right? And I was stunned because I didn't even know the money was there. I didn't think that money would be part of a community events fund. So I think that my opinion would be that we look at our history, see what we spent. What did we spend this year for 2014?
We've only spent 30,000 this year.
That's all?
We were restricted, Steve, because
We
of
were
the funding.
restricted because we didn't have any more funds. I'd like to, enlighten, the parking kiosks went into effect because we don't have hotels and motels, and we had to depend on the parking receipts. And so we thought we could generate, because part of this, if you read the article and how it was set up, that it was for public improvements, and we thought that was a way, to help generate money which the town didn't have.
Yeah. Oh,
So we loaned them the money.
right. What I'm trying to come up with is a formula that works.
Mhm.
So if we give, I'm shocked. I thought the number was higher. So
Right.
I'm trying to give you more
No,
money.
it was higher
But-
before. It was around the 60,000 range.
All right.
in
So
previous
if
years,
this year we're at 30 something,
because we don't have any money.
with your indulgence, Mr.
Go
Chairman,
ahead.
how many people did we turn down?
We-
And how
we-
much? What did we reject?
We reduced all of the awards from 100% from the previous year to 65%. So it was right down the board. So we really reduced it $30,000.
So we've been
across the
averaging.
board. And it was only for promoting and marketing tourism.
Right. So we really need, the number is about 60,
60,000.
65,000, you think?
Mhm.
Is
That would
what
be
we
a sa-
need?
Yes, because the fireworks alone takes about 16,000.
Right. But I'm talking about all the community events. We need about 65. Is that
Mhm.
correct? About
Yep,
65.
Right?
So I'd rather see a formula put together where we come up with a finite number. And we make that number happen through motel, hotel. I mean, we're going to have more hotel fees coming in next year with another 59 rooms added. We are starting to generate more parking. But I think that to take in more money than we need and put it in a fund, I don't want to do that anymore. Whatever the number is, let's try to get as close to that number as we can and make it a finite number as opposed to some percentage. That's what I'd like to see.
Mr. Titlebaum?
Yeah, one of the issues with all of this, of course, is that over the years, from what I can figure out and from what I've been able to learn from Mr. Sullivan, it appears that in some fashions this has been almost a bit of a revolving fund, absent a revolving fund authorization from town meetings. So to the extent that you've got funds left at the end of the year and you need them to kick over, the proper vehicle for that, I would think, would be a revolving fund.
The way this was set up through the legislature allowed it to have
So that was allowed to kick
Yeah,
over. Okay.
so they don't have to expend down to zero, is
You
my
don't, okay.
understanding.
No.
Well, that takes care of that problem.
One of the things that I'd like to remind people, they come with us with a request for grant money for promoting and marketing. They don't get the money, they're awarded the money, but they don't get the money back until they provide us receipts that it's been spent for newspaper, advertising, radio advertising, anything in that sense. We don't pay for any, shirts or coffee cups or things like that. It's strictly for promoting and advertising, so unless they give us a receipt for it, they don't get paid.
No,
So
we understand,
they might have been awarded 10,000, but they only provided a receipt for 6,000, hence the 4,000 is left in the,
Okay, no, we understand you don't provide grants, you provide reimbursement.
right.
So that much I know.
And these are all nonprofit organizations, and they really depend on our support.
No, I understand that.
Yeah. No, I just want to, I want the general public to know, it's money that comes back from the state. It was set up that way through the excise and through a portion of the parking receipts. Now, whatever the thing is, we reduced it from 70% to 25% and from 40% to 20%.
No, we understand that. I still think, though, I do agree with Selectman Whiteside and Selectman Holmes, though. I don't have a problem with setting a percentage to get up to a certain number, I
Right.
guess is how I would prefer to see this, because, as you know, we've really gotten into the parking business lately. And so to put a percentage in here without a cap, I mean, I know you probably wouldn't like me to describe it as overfunding, but that's kind of what could happen depending on how much of this we get into going forward, how much money parking generates. And the same with the hotel and the meals tax. We're looking at some pretty significant money there coming online eventually.
Steve, you have to speak into the microphone.
Right.
Explain that's an incorrect statement to say that the money comes from the state. It does not come from the state. She said it comes from the state.
Well, I think what she's talking about is from the state legislation to set this up is what she means.
Right, but it's not state fund, this is not
Right.
state funded.
Oh, no,
This comes from the town.
This is a disbursement authorized by the legislature
Right.
of fees that the town collects, taxes.
Fees and
Town money
taxes.
except for
Fees
some
in
of that
the
tax.
form of parking, taxes in the form of meals and hotel. So yes, that is true.
Just
I don't know, I'm loath right now to suggest an amount, because I think we need to know more about what historically has been spent over the years, Mr. Chairman. But I think, really, they would have their best luck also with the voters at town meeting if they did that as well.
Mrs. Whiteside?
I guess I have a philosophical problem here. I think it's great that there is a committee that engenders love and goodwill and tourists and, all that other good stuff. I hate being the free people. Let's go to Onset. They got great fireworks. 4 million people show up. I think if I lived in Onset, that portion of town, I'd leave town. I'm sure you do. Yes, it's important for us to have tourists, but it's also important for us to take care of the people who live here and who live here year-round, whether they're children, elderly, whatever. And I'm not convinced that, and I don't know this, I'm not convinced that having a whole bunch of festivals all year long is the greatest thing for the town of Wareham, to be honest with you.
It does support the local businesses. They all tell us that if they didn't have these events, we would have boarded up storefronts. It goes from Memorial Day to after Columbus Day, and that's it.
That probably is the case, but have they given you dollars and cents? I'm a former banker, and I need to see it in black and white. And, if John's beer shop is telling you that they, make most of their money from May 30th to, first of all, everybody starts in April now going over the bridge. Wareham has a unique situation. You don't have to go over the bridge. You don't have to sit in traffic for 9 million years and grow old. Let's make the things that we have here attractive to the people who live here and attract good business, good investments in the town. And I again, without knowing all of the things that you fund, I'm not sure that, let me put it differently. We have begun to look at how we license vendors and festivals. We want better control as the selectmen. We want to know who is a street vendor or a participant in one of the festivals or whatever they're called. And so, again, is the XYZ festival beneficial to the town or beneficial to Ralph Grab-A-Sandwich and his sisters who like to play guitar? I just made that name up. But, I'll leave it at that.
Let me just
Yeah.
go Steve before.
One more comment.
Go ahead.
I understand what you're saying, but here's the reality, I think. You have Memorial Day, which is pretty busy, and then the summer is not Memorial Day to October anymore. It's the last week of June when kids get out of school, really, until Labor Day. So we have really about 6 weeks or 8 weeks that we really try to drive those weekend events. And really it does help. I know a lot of the business guys down there, Judy, and really that 7 weeks is really important, and these festivals do bring a lot of people to town. When I look at this community, though, it's more than just those 6 weeks. There are things that happen in October. There are things that happen in November. And, we're trying to get things a little bit each month, right? Where I fall on, though, is a big event. I mean, I'm not going to name any one of them because we have several big ones, and they make a lot of money. I prefer not to see them use this money, whereas a small group who's trying to get something going, right? They don't have money. They don't have a banking account. They don't have 10 years of history having these events. Those are the people, I think, and I can't speak for him, but I think those are the people that Jimmy really had in mind when he started this, was there to help people get something going. But once somebody's been doing it for 5 or 6 or 8 years, they have a pretty sizable, some of these groups have pretty sizable bank accounts. And to come to the folks here and say, oh, we need $1,000 for advertising, they have the money in the bank. Whereas yet, Steve Holmes's fire extinguisher group wants to start a new, like the chalkboard thing this year was kind of new, right? Somebody like that, I would give them a little more money, and I think they do. But all I'm saying is that we have to be real wise with every dollar, because you know how things are across town. But we really do need that, and it's not that whole big summer thing anymore. No, we do have probably, and if I'm out of turn, just
Right. No,
speak, but I
you
think
have
that
to- one of
that's
the
about the
things- yeah.
schedule we have
One of
now.
the things I need to tell you, though, a lot of these big events support other projects, whether they're giving scholarship money or whatever the case may be.
That's not, has
Yeah.
nothing to do with this discussion. This discussion is about your funding, advertising or marketing for a particular group. What they give out on the other end has nothing to do with this discussion. That's all good for them. But you know what? If it costs them an extra $500 on the front end, that's $500 they don't give out. That's reality, because they still have a large bank account even after they've given that money out. What we're trying to do is establish helping people to get these things on a roll. That's what we're really here for.
That's a very good point.
Right.
Thank you.
Just want to explain also the way the program works, because it's a little convoluted the way it was put together originally. The money comes in to an account basically sits in an account which has to go to town meeting, and at the time, whatever money's in that account, that money comes to town meeting for that dollar amount, and it gets approved for the committee to use. So as the money just doesn't come in, every week so much, it comes in from the state, whatever, and from the town, it comes in sections. So whatever you think you're going to have available for the year may not be available at that particular time when town meeting is. So you have to do it in piecemeal. So the numbers, is always going to be leftover money coming in just because of the system itself. The real question again here is, again, I want to emphasize that we're not voting on whether we like or dislike. We're voting on whether the article is flawed or not flawed. If there's an issue if you think it's flawed because there's not a cap, that's one thing. But I just, again, want to emphasize we're not voting whether we like it or dislike
Why'd you let
it.
us talk so much?
Yeah.
Because I'd rather have, me, I'd rather have discussion.
I don't know if that was a good discussion or helpful or
No,
not,
it
but
is.
I think it was.
I want a
Of course it is,
cap.
that's why.
I want a cap on it.
I think it was.
Mr. Chairman, would you entertain a motion to come back to this on the 9th? And possibly, in the meantime, we can see if we can get a cap in place, because I think that's what it's going to take to get it on
I
the
think
warrant.
it's up to us to ask this particular committee if they want to do that or not. That's not our choice.
Right.
Well, can they change it at this point?
Yes.
Yeah, they can.
No,
They can change the language right
Can I
up
ask
until
a-
the time we
Let
post
me
the
ask one
warrant.
question
Well,
first.
have we-
Madam
when is-
Moderator, could you come
Yeah.
up for a minute, please? Just, hold on a minute.
I don't see why, I don't see how they can change the language. This is what we have done.
If at town meeting floor, someone was present a cap to the article, is that out of the scope?
I have not seen the article, so I have no idea what the article is about.
The
so
article-
I
the
don't know
article
what the
is-
subject matter is.
Yeah, the
I
article
mean,
is,
the warrant hasn't closed, so
No.
obviously,
Can change it.
you can change any submission, they just would have to resubmit the article differently, if
I'm
that's
not-
what the choice is.
yeah, I'm not worried about it. I'm just waiting. If the committee, they decided to want to bring forth their article, and we put it onto the warrant, my question was, if someone wanted to add a cap to the article. But the article right now says 25% from one area, 20% from another, in very simple language. There's no cap in there anywhere.
Is this a question we should be asking Attorney Bowen?
No, the moderator is the one that can tell us whether it's within or without of the scope.
As I said, I haven't seen the article, Alan, so I
All
think
right.
it's unfair to, I'd be happy to
I
take a
know it
look
is,
at
but-
it and give you an answer after, but I haven't had a chance to read it and look at it.
Well, just Mr. Chairman, just as a point of order, there is no article until we vote to put it on a warrant.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm
So
asking a question.
this is, you could almost call it a negotiation process at this point. And that's what we're involved in right now. We've got members who seem to want a cap as a condition for voting to put this on a warrant.
You just confused me, last night. Just spent all this time having a nice discussion about it. Then you're saying.
Mike?
We just had this nice discussion about the article, and now you're saying that, well, it's up to them.
It is.
And if they don't agree with the cap, then they We're going to put it on the article, we're going to put it on the warrant anyway?
No.
Well,
unless
they may
we
not get a
vote.
vote to do that.
They may not get a vote to do it here, that's what we're talking about. The question now, Steve, is does the Community Events Committee want to go back and come back on the 9th
Yeah.
with a cap or not? If not, we would vote now, as it is, with no cap. Correct.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I don't think we can ask, I guess, a minority of members of the Community Event Committee whether they'd be willing to do a cap. I think you're going to have to put it off till the 9th anyway,
When is your next meeting?
would be my thought. Because I think the entire committee's going to have to decide that issue. They're the ones, I assume there's a committee vote that produced this document, correct?
Yes, it was.
Well,
I have a question. Attorney Bowen, by submitting it to the state with a cap,
Put the mic closer.
is
it on?
Is the green light on?
Yes.
yeah,
Just bring it closer.
okay. By submitting this article to the state with a dollar amount, will they accept it? Right now, they're only used to seeing percentages.
It's already in
No, we don't.
Well, sure, they, with your permission, Mr. Chairman. Yes, they would accept it any way the town meeting chooses to vote it, so.
Mr.
so
Sullivan.
Just so everybody understands the numbers that we're looking at, if you took the FY14 hotel motel tax, we brought in approximately $55,000, and then if we're using the 100,000 mark of the parking program, you're looking at 35,000. The first year of the new hotel, so we'll call that FY16, we anticipate about an extra 110,000 hotel motel, so that'd be 22,000 extra on that, so it'd bring it up to about 57,000. And I believe you said you spend about 60 a year.
That's a safe number to use from, the newer events that are coming on board, i.e. the ones this year. There've been add-ons, and it's very beneficial. We're getting very good feedback.
I call for a vote on the way that it's presented, which is the percentage. That's what we're here to do. Because I think that then they can go back and figure out what they need to do, if they need to do something different.
You making a motion?
I'm making a motion to not put Article 21 on in its present form, because I would prefer a cap figure.
Do we have a second?
Second?
Any questions?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? One abstain. 310.
So, guess we'll see you folks on the 9th.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My suggestion, if I may, Mr. Slavin,
Go ahead.
would be to have a little more info about what kinds of things you're funding, and how many of them are new, perhaps, that kind of thing. By investing X, you have generated Y. I can talk with you afterwards, Susan.
Okay,
Thank-
because I have information.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Titlebaum, next.
Okay, let me just get organized here. Let's see, we got this one done. Community events is done. Let's see, I've got all kinds of repetitious stuff in here. Community events. Okay, I believe next up, do we have one, Mr. Sullivan, for the assessors at all, or is it just community preservation at this point? I saw the assessor was in here. I thought there was something he was going to be doing.
Yeah, there
Some
is.
point.
There's, there's
This
this
kind
is
of a
this
mess.
whole format is a bit off. I thought we'd use the the draft of the.
Yeah, it's
of
much
this.
easier to
And
use
I think
this.
than using those other items. If we could stick with that,
Use the
And-
draft, please.
yeah.
We didn't have it available to us in the package, that was the
Okay.
problem. We were
You
trying
tried
to,
to dig that out of this.
Here.
Yeah, we just use hers.
So you see the first item is the annual operating budget.
Yep.
And the explanation for that is this is one of the good things that we've been doing as part of having the bi-monthly financial team meetings and doing the recap before we even get into the fall, doing it directly after the when you have Springtown meeting. We sent all our recap data to the Department of Revenue, and they asked for two items, that we revote the town meeting budget because they felt that the Upper Cape Cod Tech article was voted twice, and that the overlay and also the state assessments were essentially voted in there when realistically you shouldn't under the raise and appropriate. So that's Article 1, and with the motion that the DOR has presented, that'll be a corrective measure. And Article 2 should be the water pollution control, but we're going to have the same item with the water pollution control because they felt that the in-kind costs were double appropriated. So we'd like to take the corrective measures and make sure that they're happy with everything we do. I don't know if you want to run down there and just down with these and.
Well,
I was gonna have those most of, basically on the 9th, just to run
Okay.
down, because by that time we might have some more numbers. What we're trying to do tonight was CEC and then CPC, because those were there and fixed already early, and then we'd
Okay.
go in, if we had time left.
Yeah, these two, though, number 1 and 2 should be, and the one for the water pollution control, it was number 2, it's disappeared in this version.
It's not there now.
Yeah, so number 1, the operating budget should, the numbers will be in the motion itself, of which can be submitted. So there's no change whatsoever, it's just the manner in which it was voted.
I'll take a motion to
So
approve
moved.
that. Need a second, Steve? Second. Any questions? All in favor?
aye.
3-0-0.
Thank you.
Judy's making some copies.
Perhaps we could now jump to community preservation?
Yes, please.
Yep. Mrs. Dunham, come on down. Did you bring a sidekick tonight or no?
Nice and warm, too.
Two's company.
Yes, dear.
I would like to ask your patience for a moment, please.
Should I make a copy for Claire? Do you have any more copies?
You have no patience, is that what I heard?
Mine's all screwed up here. No idea what was in front of me.
Sorry.
What are you doing now?
Oh, I'm almost done saving.
What? I thought you wanted to get this to
I've
Claire.
got two more.
Well, she should have one. Claire?
Do you want one?
I don't have one. You just took mine.
I know, I was buried in all this crap.
I know we did.
My apologies.
There you go.
The last one.
Huh?
I asked that they didn't want to do it. So
Yeah, I
they
suppose.
wanted to go ahead. I told them it's
That's why I just like to do them one at a time. Then Janet.
That's the final motion.
Well,
I apologize.
Takes a big squeeze.
It's going to be very difficult.
Thank you.
Don't know. There's nothing on there.
Are these the latest and greatest that you're handing out?
They are,
Newest for-
You, I know you emailed about a few days ago. Thank you.
well, I got an additional, I got an edit today, on the front page, I scratched out language that I was advised today does not need to be in there.
So this is edition number 10?
And then, so today,
I had received some advice that certain words needed to be put into that first article, and then today, according to Community Preservation Coalition, I found out that those words are not necessary. So that's what you see scratched out. I apologize. And then the other revision here is a letter at the very last page of your packet, and that was explained already in the packet you had. It said, refer to John Foster for expected edits of legal language. He was waiting for language coming down from the bond company, having to do with Tremont Nail and Bryant Farm bond.
Mhm.
So that legal letter came to me today at 4 o'clock, so I ran off the copies, and that's what you have. There is a placeholder in there as well, as you know, that
Who is John?
John Foster,
Our John Foster.
your town treasurer, John Foster.
Oh, Foster.
Foster,
Okay.
excuse me.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Finance director.
Yeah, oh, sorry. Okay. Oh, no, no. So that letter came to me today at 4 o'clock, so I ran them off and added it to your packet. This language on the last one came from the bonding company, and that's how they want it worded.
Okay. Peter, you want to go down these?
Yeah,
With this-
number one, article number one on your list is article number 22 in
Okay.
the draft warrant, and I'll read this aloud. To see if the town will vote to increase the fiscal year 14 reserves to reflect the additional community preservation funds received from the state match as follows. 1, historic preservation, $26,000. 2, open space, $26,000. 3, affordable housing, $26,000, for a total of $78,000 from the unallocated fund balance, and to do or act in any manner relative thereto. This is just the standard reallocation
Yes.
of the matching funds that have come in the meantime.
It is. It is.
So this is really just a housekeeping article?
Yes.
So we just need to put it on the warrant.
Take a motion to
I
put in
make
the
a
warrant,
motion
please.
to put what is known as Article 1 or Article 22
22 in your town warrant.
in a town warrant, on the warrant.
I'd like to make the additional comment that another $25 million was allocated from the statewide CPA trust fund, again, for fiscal year 2014, okay?
Is this
Can you-
$78,000 out of
second
that 25,
my
or
motion?
is there 25 additional that we're going to get another check from eventually?
I did.
Yeah.
I do.
We have a
I did.
motion.
No,
Just let us go
sorry.
one piece at a time, please. Thank you.
My fault.
If we ask, you
One
can answer.
article at a time.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Yep.
Any questions?
On the question. So the way that it was just read, this line that is crossed out is in fact crossed out, and further to reserve 1.598, that is crossed out. Correct?
Yes.
What I crossed out is
Right.
eliminated.
Reserve that
All
anymore.
right.
Any other questions?
That was it?
All those in
Thank
favor?
you.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 400. Next one, Peter.
Okay, the next one is Article 2 on your list,
23.
and it is Article 23 on the draft warrant. The warrant article reads as follows: to see if the town will vote to increase the fiscal year 15 reserve to reflect the additional community preservation funds expected to be received from the state match for the following categories: historic preservation, $17,400; 2, open space, $17,400; 3, affordable housing, $17,400; 4, administration, $8,700, for a total of $60,900 from the fiscal year 15 estimated revenue, or to do or act in any manner relative thereto.
Mr. Sullivan, I have a question. Can we actually do an article with expected revenues?
Community preservation's the one where I think we've been allowed to do that, I thought. That's the one, we just need to make sure that we don't do it as expected and then redo it again.
Double count it.
Yeah.
DOR wasn't happy last time we did that.
Right, that's what we did, so we just need to keep track of that. And I would suggest that we run this one, and I'm betting they already have, by the town accountant, because she usually has it figured out, so.
Okay.
This is 2015.
Make a motion to place Article 2, also known as Article 23, on the warrant.
Second.
Any questions?
One question.
Go ahead,
Does this
Mr.
get
Holmes.
One question.
Go ahead.
Does this get reviewed again in April town meeting if there's a change? It's expected revenue, so if it doesn't come in, do we
Mr.
bring it up
Mr.
again
Chair,
in April?
May I?
Mrs. Slavin?
What happens is that we are expected to put at least 10% of our expected revenue in these 3 reserve sections.
Okay.
And if in fact we don't get the 70% match that we are expecting, there's nothing wrong with over-reserving our funds, so we don't down it. If in fact we don't get if we get 69% as opposed to the 70% expected, we don't come back at the next town meeting and ask that this number be reduced.
Well, we don't spend the 70% either.
No, it's reserved.
It's
Right.
reserved.
It's just reserved.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400. Next, Peter.
Next up,
Before you start this particular article,
24.
I am the director of the Historical Society, one of 7. Since this is a money article coming to the society, even though I don't get paid, it's still to me an appearance of conflict. I'll have to step outside the room until you vote on this one.
Can you just do it from there without speaking?
No, needs to.
it's being doubly cautious.
Still a public meeting.
Okay, I'll read it into the record. I guess I'll wear 2 hats for a minute. Article number 3, as presented by Community Preservation. This is Article 24 in the draft warrant. Reads as follows: to see if the town will vote to transfer from the Community Preservation Historic Preservation Reserve Fund or any other monies available in the Community Preservation Fund up to the sum of $98,000 to award a grant to the Wareham Historical Society to restore the old Methodist Meeting House located at 495 Main Street, Wareham, Mass., and to receive a preservation restriction or to do or act in any manner relative thereto.
This was discussed a few weeks ago, and I move that it be placed on the warrant as read.
Second.
Okay, fair enough. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 300.
301.
301, that's right.
Alan.
Does he
has to
exist if he
abstain.
leaves
No.
the room?
He
Oh, he
doesn't
didn't abstain.
exist.
He didn't exist.
He doesn't exist. It's a 300.
too.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
It's not an abstention because he wasn't here to hear it. Let's
Well, we can
see.
leave him in the hallway for a while. Are there any other ones that require him to abstain?
I don't believe so.
No.
That's going to be up to him to... Okay, number 4.
Alan, was that the only one?
Okay. I'll read number 4 while he's getting seated. This is Article 25 on the draft warrant. The title is Agawam Village Rehabilitation of Unit 51, Building 5. Warrant article, to see if the town will vote to transfer from the Community Preservation Affordable Housing Reserve or any other available monies in the Community Preservation Fund under affordable housing the sum of $70,000 for a grant to the Wareham Housing Authority to create one additional housing unit, Unit 51, Building 5 at Agawam Village, located at 57 Sandwich Road, Wareham, Mass., to accommodate an eligible Wareham resident for affordable public housing or to do or act in any manner relative thereto.
This was also discussed several weeks ago, and I move that it be placed on the warrant as read. And
We have a second?
Does this fall under the guidelines?
yes, it does.
Did Rich give that opinion?
Yes, he did.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Mr. Bowen gave,
Build a brand new place?
No,
It's-
it's taking an existing place and converting it from an office to
And
a
that,
facility.
and that falls under the guidelines?
Mr. Bowen?
I just want to make sure.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, to Selectman Holmes, yes, you can actually use it to create new housing, so that's perfectly acceptable.
We had a motion, I didn't hear a second.
Second.
Thank you. All those, any questions? None heard. All those in favor?
aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400.
And again, these votes are only to put these articles on the warrant. We are not voting whether we're in favor of them or
Nope,
not.
that comes later on in the month.
Thank you.
Okay, next up will be Article number 5, as presented by Community Preservation. Article 26, as it appears on the draft warrant. Title, American Legion Hall Restoration. Warrant article, to see if the town will vote to transfer from the Community Preservation Historical Preservation Reserve or any other available monies in the Community Preservation Fund up to the sum of $114,500 $543 for a grant to the American Legion Hall Post 220 for the restoration of the American Legion Hall Post 220 located at 777 Main Street, Wareham, Massachusetts, or to do or act in any manner relative thereto.
Again, this was presented a few weeks ago, and the building is an historic building. It was previously a school building, and it is in, it does fall in under all of the qualifications and category requirements. So I move favorable action to put it on the warrant.
You just moved to put it on the warrant. Second.
Questions, Mr. Holmes?
Put it on the warrant.
Yes.
Put it on the warrant. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 4-0. Mr. Bowen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just for the committee, I know when we had reviewed this, there was a discussion about putting in a possible language about preservation restrictions, and I don't see anything like that in here.
Because can I answer?
Which one is he on now?
Go ahead, same one, Steve.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
Changed.
Article 5 still. I know you.
This is down.
Which one are we on? Are
The-
we on?
the-
American Legion.
Yeah, this was the
Okay.
Legion.
We did the roof a
Yep.
few years back, and a preservation restriction was placed on the building at that time. So this would be duplicating that if you requested again. The roof was done with that language in it for the building.
One size fits all.
I hope so.
Well,
Well, could we
you
ask
can alert us to any
that
issue,
you just
perhaps.
double check that with him?
Well, subject to, since you had discussion after the vote was taken, I mean, it doesn't
Well,
make any sense.
If there's an issue, let us
Can we
know.
take that vote, rescind that vote?
With your permission, Mr. Chairman, call it belt and suspenders, but it's just easier to have the belt and suspenders in place at this stage than to try to knit one up at town meeting.
I think I have
I'll
a way
ask
to-
someone to,
May I
Withdraw.
withdraw my
Withdraw.
motion?
I withdraw my second.
all right.
I'll, with your leave, I'll make the motion, because I think I can use language that will fix the problem here. Let me just flip back.
Same language, just subject to.
To see if the town will vote to transfer, and read the whole thing into the record again, Steve. To see if the town will vote to transfer from the Community Preservation, Historical Preservation Reserve, or any other available monies in the Community Preservation Fund up to the sum of $114,543 for a grant to the American Legion Hall Post 220 for the restoration of the American Legion Hall Post 220 located at 777 Main Street, Wareham, Massachusetts, and to the extent necessary, place an additional conservation restriction upon same, or to do or act in any other manner relative thereto.
Second.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Question, Steve.
We're not here to change the warrant article. We're not here to change the warrant article. We're here to vote whether to put it on the warrant or not. So he just changed.
We're in
he just
agreement on
changed
this
the
one.
article.
We're in agreement on this one. I don't think the committee is objecting to it. It's a different scenario than we were with community events when we were essentially almost negotiating back and forth with them. I think it's the chairman.
Well, I don't know that the committee of two can make that determination. They don't
But I
have a
believe
quorum.
you said conservation restriction.
Yeah, you meant
Did I?
You meant
Historic preservation restriction.
All I was going to say, Mr. Titlebaum, was, you know, I support the motion, make the motion, subject to the presentation of the restriction. So we're sure that the restriction, because this is the type of thing I think we're going through these for.
Yeah.
So you get to town meeting and somebody say, oh, that's on the roof, it doesn't cover the whole building or whatever, and then next thing you know, we're in April, right? And I think that's why we're going through this exercise.
Yes. And that's,
So I'd like to have something in writing that says that, in fact, that the roof, the piece that was put on the roof covers the entire building. It'd be,
he read his,
that's all I'm trying to figure out.
right, what Peter read, what Mr. Titlebaum read was was language that,
Right, but do two members of a committee have the right to change that without a quorum? They're presenting this article to the Board of Selectmen.
I would suggest that, let's see,
That's-
You want to put this
and
off till the
change that
9th?
one. Yes.
Okay,
Thank you,
can
Steve.
we withdraw your motion? I'll withdraw my
Wait.
motion. And there wasn't a second, so motion withdrawn.
Thank you. Next.
So the outcome of that is they're gonna come
They
back.
have to come back or else it's not gonna work.
With the historic preservation language.
And I think I would also alert Mr. Bowen there that
We can get an opinion from him in time.
we need to figure out,
I just don't know what the restriction says.
right, just to make sure we don't have any faults when we get in front of all those people. Thank you.
Okay, number 6 on the community preservation list. This is Article 27 on the draft warrant. Title, Parker Mills Dam Restoration Placeholder Article. The article reads as follows: to see if the town will vote to transfer from the CPA Historic Preservation Account the sum of $835,005 for the preservation of the Parker Mills Dam, so-called, and located on Elm Street, or to do or take any other action relative thereto.
But,
Mr.
This
Chair,
is-
there is a
Would-
problem with the words.
yeah,
Yes.
the record on their separate presentation shows that, that they would like us to hold off on it. Is that correct?
I am leaving that up to Mr. Bowen and Mr. Sullivan and the board, because they are pursuing additional information that I don't have.
Correct.
This is a
So this one
placeholder.
just isn't ready yet.
It's not ready, so we'll hold off on it.
Okay.
Doesn't have to be ready today.
Just make a notation.
Next.
Okay, this one is Article 7 on the community preservation list. It is Article 28 on the draft warrant.
Have the money.
This one has been approved by CPC.
Mhm.
Title, Tweedy and Barnes Preserve Central Corridor Edition. Warrant article, to see if the town will vote to transfer from the Community Preservation Open Space Reserve Fund or any other available monies in the Community Preservation Fund to grant the Wareham Land Trust the sum of $158,000 to purchase the property shown on our plan and deeds on file in the office of the town clerk. Book volume 36,795, page 304, parentheses, 4.53 acres, close parentheses, Assessors Map 68, Lot 1A, and Book Volume 5938, page 328, parentheses, 3.16 acres, close parentheses, Assessors Map 68, Lot 1B, or to do or act in any manner relative thereto.
I move that we put Article 7/28 on the warrant as presented.
Have a second?
Second.
Any questions? None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400. I'll repeat again for everybody listening, this is strictly putting the articles on the warrant. This is not the board's, opinion of they like or dislike any article. Thank you.
Okay, next one. This is Article number 8 in the CPC handout. This is Article number 29 on the draft warrant. This was voted 7-0-0 by CPC. The title, Playground Rehabilitation Fund. Warrant article reads as follows: to see if the town will vote to transfer from the Community Preservation Open Space Reserve or any other available monies in the Community Preservation Fund under Recreation, a grant to the Open Space Committee, the sum of $75,000 to fund playground rehabilitation for existing playgrounds that have been identified as being the most critical by the Recreation Assessment Report, or to do or act in any manner relative thereto.
I move that this Article 8/29 be placed on the warrant.
Second. And again, this is something that's already come before the board for discussion.
Any questions? None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained?
Did we get a copy of that report, final report? I don't recall seeing that, the assessment of the playgrounds that they
They don't
referenced.
have the final yet.
Haven't got it yet.
Well, and how can something be identified as being most critical by the
They will
Recreation
have the
Assessment
report.
They can't
They will
start
have the
until they
report
have
before the town meeting.
This is just putting the money.
Now, the next one, Mr. Chairman, if we could just ask Community Preservation, is it the language from the letter that you wish us to read as the warrant article, the letter from Kara Adams,
Yes,
rather than what we've originally prepared?
please.
Okay.
I was told this is the legal language the bond company wants.
Well, we want to put the right article on. Okay, title of this is Tremont Nail Company, Bryant Farm Debt Payment. The article will read as follows: to see if the town will vote to appropriate a sum of money to pay for the redemption of certain bonds of the town, to determine whether this appropriation shall be raised by transfer from unallocated CPA funds or otherwise, or to take any other action relative thereto.
I move that this article be put on the warrant as read into the record, understanding that this has been discussed before, and this is retirement of the debt.
It's
Second.
also savings of $80,000.
Saving, it's prepayment of the debt and savings of $80,000.
Any questions?
There wasn't a second, sir.
I believe
Second.
Peter did.
I second it.
Any questions? None heard. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 400.
And I believe that wraps up community preservation articles.
Peter, would you just go back on CPC and review the numbers that will have to come back to us again?
We'll have to come back. Let's see.
Number 6 or 27, your 6, our 27, which is the article
The building.
on the Parker
dam.
Mills Dam, okay.
Article 26.
And the American Legion, which is 5 and 26, so that whether there's a historic preservation restriction required or whether the one that's on record is already good enough. Thank
Okay,
you.
And that would be for next meeting?
Right.
Yeah, if
There's no meeting next week. There will be a meeting on
On
the
the
9th.
9th. 2 weeks, okay.
The 9th.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
If there's a resolution, if there's not a resolution, the board will have to make a decision whether to bring it forward or not at that time.
Mhm.
We
Thank you
have-
for all the time this took.
Thank you. We have nobody else in as far as boards, committees outside. Mr. Sullivan, do you have any articles that are at this point?
Usually we have the placeholders for the union contracts. I would ask that we allow that to go on to the warrant.
We'll take a
It's
motion on that.
Currently Article 3.
3, I move that it be submitted to fund, as a placeholder on the warrant, to fund ratified union contracts.
Second.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Whiteside, second by Mr. Titlebaum. Any questions? None heard. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 400.
I do ask that we place Article 2 on the warrant, that is to approve and fund the FY15 capital plan. As you know, that's usually something that comes out a little bit later through capital planning and the recommendations
So
from them.
moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Whiteside, second by Mr. Titlebaum. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 400.
Just one point. Going forward, do you want me to read these into the record or just off the... We'll append this to the
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
to the minutes afterwards.
Do that.
Want to know how to hand this into the office?
Any others, Mr. Sullivan?
I'll hold off on the transfer of funds to the parking kiosk program. It's just, I would like to see a few more dollars for what the average cost is for meter personnel, et cetera. Article 5, the FY 2013 unpaid bills. There is one unpaid bill. You'll see 2 listed, but that one's been covered. The WB Mason, and that unfortunately comes from the Disability Commission, and that was an outstanding one from them.
That's just standard procedure.
Right. So
I
Take a motion
move
on
that
that one.
Article 5 be placed on the warrant for
Second.
unpaid bills.
Mrs. Whiteside made the motion, Mr. Titlebaum second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 400.
yeah, I would hold off on the rest of them because there probably is more information you'd like before.
This is the articles that you've submitted?
Yeah, there are a few more that I've submitted as
Right.
well, or my department heads and such.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, do you want to proceed with the board-developed articles at this point?
Yes. Just want to make a quick note, Article 12 on, I think it's a street layout for Bashant Way and Lynn Road. We still have not got paperwork. If we don't have anything by the 9th, we're going to have to drop this out. We can't do what we've done the last two meetings and keep it in for the last minute.
Well, among the board presented articles, Article 6, the placeholder article that was drafted did not name a dollar amount. We came in here last week as sewer commissioners and heard a rough dollar amount. What do we wish to do with that at this point? Are we waiting till the 9th for that one to come back with what we know is more of a sum certain for the authorization, or? I think we were told that the estimate was 18 million, but the request was to authorize, for town meeting to authorize up to 20.
I'd like to wait till the 9th. Hopefully Patrick will be back then, because that's part of his.
Okay.
I'd rather have that explanation. Also, hopefully we'd have some information from John Foster, et cetera, about how we're going to pay for it.
Okay. Then Article 7 is also another sewer-related article. I think we were still sort of in the formative stages of that one as well. We hadn't really settled upon language because we want to make sure that our action doesn't cause any unneeded expense in terms of entirely redeveloping a comprehensive wastewater management plan. So should we also hold off on that until the 9th, until we have Mr. Tropiano back with us?
Please.
Yes. Next.
Okay, and Article number 8 on the draft warrant, Swift Speech rededication for open space and recreation. I think this one is ready for a vote if that's your pleasure, Mr. Chairman.
I move that Article 8 be placed on the warrant.
Any discussion? None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400 to go on the warrant. That was a second by Steve.
Okay, next up, Article 9, amend Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaws, Section 17. I believe this one is final as well.
I'll move that Article 9 be placed on the warrant.
Second. Second by Mr. Holmes.
Second by Mr. Holmes. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400.
Okay, Article 10. Do you leave, Mr. Chairman? I'll ask the town administrator and town council whether there's any additional language at this point that they would want to go in, and if so, do they want us to hold off until the 9th?
I would recommend holding off to the 9th on there. We've compared the one that was originally proposed to the one that was brought back and
Right.
passed, and we're trying to resolve the deficiencies.
Okay, does that suit you, Mr. Chairman? Hold off till the 9th?
Okay.
So noted.
It'll be a busy day.
I'm just going through here to see if there's anything else that looks like.
I think that's all we have for
Mr. Sullivan had already said that he wants to wait
Okay.
on all of the remaining articles he's put on here.
Actually, Article 16, what happened was that's the enterprise fund one that I spoke about that we're going to have to revote. It looks like it had just been inserted by the Board of Selectmen at the request of the WPCF, which is why it was sent further back. So that's one where we will just amend the way it was voted with the DOR language. So I would appreciate if we could have Article 16.
Move
Well,
Article 16 to be included on the warrant.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Whiteside, second by Mr. Titlebaum. Any questions? None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400.
I'm just trying to flip through this to see if there's anything else we can pick off tonight.
We can pick these off.
Well, he said he wanted to wait for
Articles
his
13 and
department heads.
14, you ready for those, Mr. Sullivan? Septic, 13, 14?
Article 14, I have no problem with. Article 13, I would ask that the actual interest amount be verified by the town accountant before we would have any funds expended.
I'll
from
move
that.
Article 14 be placed on the warrant.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Whiteside, second by Mr. Titlebaum. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400.
Okay, we already covered those. Robotic closed caption TV system, is this something?
This is something that I could explain. You may want to have Mr. Campina to come in to do more, but this is actually one of our attempts, believe it or not, to save money for the ratepayers. and we're hoping that it can work out. So, but Mr. Campino will
I think
is.
the only question here is we don't have a dollar amount, but that's,
Yeah, the dollar amount that we anticipate for this is $100,000. Currently, we rent the system at $200 an hour. We have 2 operators that are trained to use it and actually write the reports. And with the requirements to not just seek out infiltration and inflow or I&I, we also have to, I believe at least once a year, inspect all our miles of piping. And if we're hiring somebody out at $200 an hour, it's a fortune.
So we can put it on.
I would suggest you put it on.
I move to authorize inclusion of Article 15 on the warrant.
Second.
motion by Mrs. Whiteside, second by Mr. Titlebaum. Any questions? None heard? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 400.
Does this mean we're going to miss the movie that'll have prepared, I'm sure, for this?
It was actually really interesting and horrifying to watch.
Yes, it was.
You thought
Going
it would
through
be good
those
theater.
pipes.
Let's see.
17, Mr. Sullivan?
17 is a repair of municipal street lights and period lights. We know that there are currently many of them out. We don't have the funding within the municipal maintenance budget. We were actually trying to seek where we could do the funding for this. So I would not,
Hold
the
off.
anticipated amount is $25,000, but I don't have a funding location for it.
Can we hold off then?
Number 18 has a set dollar amount. Travel services.
Yes, I would recommend that this one goes on. Mr. Buckminster does have a long list of what he's looking for, and it is prepared. However, I asked him to have it removed from the motion as it's unwieldy.
Okay, I recommend putting Article 18 on the warrant.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Whiteside, second by Mr. Titlebaum. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 400.
Housing inspection?
Article 19.
Article 19, I would ask that this go forward. This is to increase the spending limit for the Board of Health rental inspection from $50,000 to $70,000.
I move Article 19 be placed on the warrant.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Whiteside, second by Mr. Titlebaum. Questions? Mr. Bowen, are we allowed to, on this article that was passed in town meeting, just go back and increase the dollar amount with a simple,
Within the same fiscal year, yes.
thank you? No other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 400. Number
This is
20.
Article
state
20.
mandated measure.
Yeah, your favorite.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, number 1 on the Slave and Hit Parade.
This one is what I'm considering one of the most important ones in this fall town meeting. We have the 10-year measure and list.
Yeah.
We are in basically our 7th to 8th year of that, and from the beginning of the decade-long measure and list should be happening, we are behind. We're going to be required to do this. There's no way to get around it. You need it to set your tax rate, and we're going to have to fund this through free cash. We do anticipate for the first time in many years of having free cash available for this fall town meeting.
Go ahead and make a motion.
I'll make a motion that we include Article 20 on the warrant.
Second.
Any questions? Motion by Mrs. Whiteside, second by Mr. Titlebaum. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to oppose, and one abstain. 310, only because it's a mandate that the state doesn't pay us.
Oh.
It's a principle at this point.
What'd you say, 301?
310.
310?
Okay, Article 21 was community events. We're coming back to that, hopefully.
We did it.
Article 22, 23, 24,
We
we
did
already
those.
took care of. 25, 26, 27, CPC. Okay, we're up to Article 31, amendment to the waterways bylaw. You know
I
anything
would
about this?
no, I would ask you to hold off on this. I think this is a carryover from the formatting of the.
I don't think that's a real article.
I don't think it's an article. No.
Oh, you think it's a...
It's a Shirley. It's okay.
Hush you. That concludes the
We all do
draft warrant, so I guess we've got this item Finished.
All right, just to go through, make sure we're all on the same page. Article 4. Article 6. Article 7.
Get him some-
Article
he
10.
doesn't- He doesn't look good at all.
Article 11. Article 12 will be a pull if we don't have something by the 9th. Article 13. Article 21, that will be community events. See if they'll be coming back to us on that. Article
I think
26.
we have an issue.
Ready, we're back. Mr. Holmes had a little blood sugar issue, and he'll be taken care of fine. There'll be no issue. Next up will be any town business not anticipated in 48 hours. Mr. Holmes is going to have an issue. Mr. Sullivan, do you want to fill in with that, or do you want to do it under your report?
I think I can cover that under the TA report.
Okay. Then you're basically up, and I just want to remind you that we did not put the Veterans Day Parade, as a separate item. So I just leaving it that, Mr. White, I think, wanted through you to us to authorize something for him.
No, it's realistically, it was from the town administrator, just so people know that we have approved it. They have our backing, the departments to work with them, and similar as we did last year.
Okay.
And I don't see anything shrinking from the efforts that were put forward. Everybody did a great job, and I think we will be able to put something together that's similar, if not better, especially with Bob at the helm. So,
Mr. White, are you all set with that? Thank you. I saw a little finger. Not sure what the finger
Yeah.
meant.
It was the index finger, not the other one.
Well, it was some kind of finger going in a circle. Okay, Derek, anything else for your report?
yes, there are 2 properties along Cranberry Highway that have failed to take corrective action that from our building inspection and health agent as well. I'm seeking the board's permission to bring town council and engage to force corrective action.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 300. I just want to make a comment that I've been down there twice, to the property on the left side, once the property on the right side. That was when we discovered they had no licenses, and then the other one on the left side going down. We were down there, and there was issues. Mr. Ethier was going to go down and look because there was a lot of trash and debris all over the place, and Mr. Iafredi was working on it, but they've been very difficult to get anything done there. Thank you for taking care of this.
I'm going to, there's a lot of other items, but there's just one I'd like to take care of, and then we can call this an evening if the board is okay with it. And
Yes.
that's, this item is, it is a congratulations to Ashley Duff, who this Friday will graduate from the Plymouth Police Academy. And she will be our newest officer. She will then come in with training, and there are other trainings, and she's going to do the riding along with a supervisor and a trainer. So she's not quite in there, but it's an excellent achievement, and congratulations to her and her family.
That's great. That's it for you?
Yeah.
Your next item, liaison reports. Did anybody liaise this past week?
No, let's pass that for tonight now at this point. I
Okay.
think if we just do the minutes, get
Minutes,
those
yeah.
quickly done, and that's it.
Okay, let me get organized with the minutes here.
I'll move the,
Hold on.
Each one has
yeah, I know,
an agenda header on it.
June 10th, 2004, as written.
Motion by Mrs. Whiteside, second by,
I will second.
any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 300.
Move July 15th executive session and hold.
Motion by Mrs. Whiteside, second by Selectman Titlebaum.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, I think, do I have to sign that one, by the way?
Motion to accept the regular minutes of July 22nd, 2014.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Whiteside, second by Mr. Titlebaum. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, 300.
August 4th, move the adoption of the minutes as written.
Motion by
Second.
Mrs. Whiteside, second by Mr. Titlebaum. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
300.
The executive session minutes of August 7th, I move that we approve them and hold.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Whiteside, second by Mr. Titlebaum. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, 300.
And the regular meeting of August 12th, 2014, move to adopt.
Motion by Mrs. Whiteside,
Move to,
Second.
yeah.
second by Mr. Titlebaum. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, 300. That's it? Take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Titlebaum, second by Mrs. Whiteside. All in favor?
Aye.
300. Thank you. Good night, Wareham.
Good night, Wareham. Good night, Steve.